Ah, the March of Dimes, the charity that made dreams come true.
Best way you raise money was basically to scare the hell out of the American public.
You've never seen me, but I'm sure you've seen my shadow. I'm never invited, but I've been an invisible guest in practically every kind of home.
To scare the hell out of the American public.
This is what I've been looking for.
Hey guys, so this is a pretty interesting piece to me. This is a 1953 D Roosevelt dime, and it is silver. All dimes before 1965 were 90% silver. And this one comes in a brass ring. It's encased in, and at the top it says March of Dimes, Fight Infantile Paralysis on the front, and on the reverse it says Polio Fighter, 1954. So this was given out as a promotional gift to fundraisers and donors that gave to the March of Dimes in 1954. And this is just a really amazing piece. There's a massive story behind this. So we all know of the March of Dimes. We still see the little donation jars by the cash register when we go to certain stores. And everybody thinks it was just a very good, honest, wholesome charity, and for the most part it has been. But during the 50s there was a massive scare tactic. It scared most of the nation. It created nightmares, and the whole idea was to raise more money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it, and I'll be getting into it. And this piece here, I believe, was made by a company, the brass ring. I'm not sure if it was assembled all there, but this brass ring was created by a company called Metal Arts Co. or MECCO out of Rochester, New York. So before I get any further, I do want to say that polio is a serious illness. It is a serious virus that killed a lot of people, and it caused a lot of paralysis, especially in the 40s and 50s. And even FDR was affected by it. But the part that I want to really focus on is the actual scare tactics between 1949 and 1956, and even on into the early 60s. So there is no conspiracy theory about polio itself. That is not what I'm getting to. But I bought this coin to kind of show you the scare tactics and kind of the playbook that was repeated just a few years ago under what I'll call the dub-dub era. So during the dub-dub era, some of these scare tactics that were used in the 50s were repeated, and I've mentioned in a lot of my videos before that it seems like every 70 to 80, 85 years, around 65 to 90, somewhere around there, the collective memory of the American population just forgets about things that's happened in the past, and they could be reused, either on purpose by people that want to manipulate the public, or for whatever reason, whatever their agenda is. But those kind of things, if you don't pay attention to history, they can get used against you again and again and again and again and again. Let's get to it.
The only way to fight infantile paralysis is with money. And so I'm asking you tonight to send a dime to President Roosevelt at the White House.
Enlisting celebrities to the cause, O'Connor made an unprecedented appeal to the American public.
Judy, when I spend a dime on myself for some little luxury like this, I always think about those unfortunate kids and how far just a dime will go toward helping.
Gee, Mickey, we don't know how lucky we are and how much we have to be thankful for with our health and our happiness.
Judy, and that's why we should...
The campaign was dubbed the March of Dimes.
Can I put a dime in your envelope?
Oh, you know that you can. And that's what every good American should do. Join the March of Dimes. Send yours to President Franklin Roosevelt in the White House.
The March of Dimes campaign exceeded all expectations, raising $1.8 million, a staggering sum.
What O'Connor realized was that this was a fundraising gold mine. This turns fundraising on its head. You no longer want big donations from the few. You want small donations from the millions. No one is too poor to give a dime to help a kid walk again.
So polio is nothing new. It's been around for thousands of years. The earliest depiction of someone with polio is a Egyptian stele from around 1500 BC, and it showed a person with a withered leg, which is thought to be a priest named Roma, and the stele is named the polio stele or the stele of Roma, the doorkeeper. It was mainly known as infantile paralysis due to mainly children having it at first, because children would get together and play in dirty water during the hot summer times, and it would spread due to fecal matter entering the mouth somehow. But adults began to get it as time grew on. More and more adults were getting it, and when adults would get it or older children would get it, it would be more severe. The full name of polio is poliomyelitis, and of course, this is a Greek name, and the breakdown is polio meaning gray, myelos meaning marrow, and then itis meaning of or affection or inflammation. You get it. Before the 1900s, polio was pretty rare, but with the improvements in sanitation and better hygiene becoming more common, it ironically triggered more frequent epidemics to break out in an industrialized world like the United States.
Let me tell you a true story about immunization, okay? When I was a little boy in New York City in the 1940s, we swam in the Hudson River, and it was filled with raw sewage, okay? We swam in raw sewage, you know, to cool off. And at that time, the big fear was polio. Thousands of kids died from polio every year. But you know something? In my neighborhood, no one ever got polio. No one, ever. You know why? Because we swam in raw sewage. It strengthened our immune systems. The polio never had a prayer. We were tempered in raw shit.
Because people were living cleaner lives, and mothers eventually lost their antibodies to polio. And when the children were born into this sterile world, and they would go out in the summertime and polio would get them, they would have no immunity to it, so it would start to attack them. And as time went on, more older children or adults started getting it, and then this is where you start to see a lot of the paralysis start to kick in with older children, and it is scary because it attacks older people worse. I used to own a pair of polio leg braces. Check this out. This is from a short film that I did about 15 years ago. Just as Roosevelt was starting his political career, he got polio at the age of 39. You can see here's a campaign button. This is actually a reproduction, but it's a reproduction from 1972. But this is his campaign button when he was running as vice president. You see Roosevelt and Cox. That is James Cox, the guy who owned Cox Media. But anyways, he contracted polio at his family's summer home, and he was paralyzed from it. And this is actually something that he hid. So he hid this from the public. Everybody knew that he had polio when he was young, but he kept the fact that he was paralyzed away from the public. And he actually tried to keep it away from allies and adversaries from around the world. And I can understand it was the Cold War. But Stalin and everybody else knew he was paralyzed. And, you know, when they set him next to Stalin and Churchill in like Yalta and other conventions and conference, they knew that he was paralyzed. They could see. But the media tried their best to hide the fact that he was paralyzed. Now I have to ask you, do you really think they would do that for Trump? Do you really think they would hide the cameras purposely so no one knew he was paralyzed? I don't think so. That was a different time. They let him get away with it, even though people probably knew, but they purposely all cahooted together and hid the fact that he was paralyzed, never recording him in his wheelchair. He set up in kitchen chairs, he used crutches and other stuff, but they never showed his wheelchair. But he was the polio president, but the scare tactics wasn't kicked in yet. They didn't kick in until after he died. And he would have these balls, these birthday balls from 1934, I believe, is when it started. It's also the same time that he started pushing for different foundations and stuff like that to raise money for polio. The March of Dimes started in 1938, but his balls, that's what they were called, presidential balls or birthday balls, started in 1934. But it wasn't until after he died that the scare tactics took place.
Scare the hell out of the American public.
To keep up the fundraising momentum, O'Connor shifted tactics.
As you probably know, I'm very fond of children, especially little children. I have no prejudices. I'm quite impartial.
The March of Dimes' new message was a frightening one. Polio could strike anyone, anytime.
You went to a movie, and there was a little short subject about polio.
Infantile paralysis.
They would pass a cup row by row, something to put whatever change you had in it. Polio was brought home every day to families all over the United States.
In a few years, the polio
Scare the
epidemic
hell out
has
of
been
the
on the
American
increase
public.
and continues as a national.
Fight polio tonight with your porch light at 7.
The campaign worked. The March of Dimes grew to 3,000 local chapters, creating a network that reached millions and raised millions. By the late 1940s, as much as $22 million per year. But O'Connor's campaign told only part of the story. While polio could be devastating, the chances of contracting an acute case were quite small. Of being paralyzed, smaller still. Of dying from polio, extremely remote. Many more Americans died from car accidents or tuberculosis.
And there are a lot of parents whose children are healthy and happy now, who live in fear. I know I do. The fear, my friends, is polio, infantile paralysis.
Polio is no respecter of people. The rich, the poor.
What the March of Dimes did was to turn an awful but relatively uncommon disease into our national disease and our national crusade. Basil O'Connor's feeling was, we've got to raise money for this. The best way you raise money was basically to scare the hell out of the American public.
It's hard to imagine today, I think, how pervasive the fear was and how embedded in the American psyche.
The fear overwhelmed common sense. Every summer, in Wytheville and hundreds of towns across the country, people took extraordinary measures to avoid polio. They even sprayed the pesticide DDT, despite the fact scientists had proved flies did not spread the virus.
Not knowing which way to turn. What's causing it? People looked for all sorts of places to put the blame. Some of them are ludicrous and some of them weren't.
Well, I guess I'm going to end this video. There's a lot more I could say. This video will probably get removed. But I bought this as a reminder that our grandparents went through a 2020 or a dub as well. And they'll bring back the same tactics if you let them. Well, let me know what you think of this video. And I did take a lot of the footage from a documentary and used it in this video. I'll put a link to the entire documentary in the descriptions. I suggest you go ahead and watch that. It's less than an hour. And it's actually by PBS. PBS used to be good. A lot of left-wing media was good until 2015, 2016. They were pretty more centrist, but 2016 destroyed everything. And I think 2020 killed the rest of it. Well, we got a skeleton of America left. But this is a piece of history that I thought was amazing. So tell me what you think about this video. Tell me what you think about the March of Dimes and the fight for polio. All right, bye.